Where are the biggest opportunities in 10, 15, even 25 years? Like, what does the direction look like for any of us that don't really know anything about renewable energy?
Well, the direction is very clear. The most powerful resource is the sun. How much energy radiates out of it? And how much of that energy are we actually capturing? Not enough. There's a difference in efficiency in the cells of solar panels of about 7%. 7%.
That's it?
Yeah, you'd think, some scientists would be like, fucking the most efficient cell in the world, boom, all you need is a box.
Welcome back to the Social Seller Podcast with Conor Paulsen. Today we have a special guest, but I really want to remind you of why we're putting this out there. It goes way beyond sales, and it's about being a high-quality communicator and living a congruent life, right? And to do that, that starts to show in sales. So my guarantee in the value I want to make sure I promise you is that each guest is someone that I look up to personally, someone that has either taken off with their brand already and is killing it. Each one would, I would say, be doing that, but everyone's on different stages, right? I'm so excited to not only have a good friend, but Manny Renteria here. Let's go. Episode number 6. And let's just hop in because look at this gentleman, right? I mean, when I look at you, I see like a special mix of Mark Cuban and Seth Rogen.
Okay.
Like, I think maybe a little personality involved too, right?
Definitely.
You're 38 years young, born and raised in San Diego, like Oscar, the magical cameraman. Started as an electrician, and that'll make sense here in a little bit. You've always been still am.
Till I die.
Till I die. Till I die.
Dude.
I love that.
I'm a Sparky to death.
Guarantee for life. You're a career builder. You were born right over there. We can actually see the hospital that you were born on an island. You're an islander. How cool is that?
I know. I get to boast about that only because I was raised in Chula Vista.
So for anyone
feel a little bit more unique.
Right, and for anyone that knows, it's Coronado Island, and it's a crazy story within itself, and maybe it'll come up tonight. And you own a handful of companies, right? 3 companies. I mean, a nonprofit. You have One Up Solar, and that's how we met. I mean, running a fast-growing solar company in Southern California is nuts, and how fast you're growing is really a big part of why I wanted to bring you on, because I know it's such an exciting time. And genuinely, it's a little selfish. I just want to get a better idea of how it works, how the industry is moving, and where you see things going. You have a holdings company too, and you've managed teams of 15 or more. So those are all qualifications, I think, in the personal and professional way for a social seller. And just knowing you for a couple of years here in San Diego, I know you're a high-quality human. I look up to you. I know you have a spiritual component. That's definitely where we vibe too. But I guess just to start it off, where were you born? Here in San Diego, but what kept you here? Because most people don't. And what are you doing today?
The palm trees kept me here, honestly. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, both to you, Oscar and Conor, for having me here. It's really a pleasure, and I hope we bring some value to the table today. We have a lot of stories, and so San Diego. I mean, the Coronado Bridge. Check out my wrists.
Yeah.
That's the bridge, and actually that
Here.
view that you see on my wrist is the exact view that you get from J Street, Chula Vista, and you see these buildings over here. So anyway, that's on there for
Try to talk into the mic too, just because I want to make sure everyone hears you. And you can pull a little closer too. I know you're an energetic person, and you came in and mentioned it to me beforehand, and I know you're an energetic person. It's difficult for me too.
I know.
No, I know. So you have a handful of companies, but I think I just want to dive right in, if it's okay with you. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
And just to finish off the question, what keeps me here are the palm trees.
Okay. I love that. Palm trees.
I lived in Arizona for a little bit, and there's no palm trees.
That's it. Arizona?
There's no green.
Zonians?
It's hot.
Who would you attribute, looking back to the person you are today, as your role model for life? Not right now, but just in life. And how did they impact you?
My parents, both of them, equally, I would say. More so my dad, and my mom in different ways, but just as a businessman and career-wise, and just the drive. It was actually something that my father instilled in me when I was young.
Yeah.
And the only thing, he was a man of very few words, actually. And he just passed away January 6th, I think, this year.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, it was
I didn't know
tough.
that one.
Anyway, that's a story to tell later. But I have this quote tattooed on my arm that he wrote. He wrote me one letter in his entire life, and he was just a man of very few words. And I think the only thing that stuck with me, because I was naive and just a teenager. We were growing up in the '90s, just do whatever you can as a teenager and just be home by 10. And so he would often just pull me aside and remind me that I was a badass, And that was
what would he say to you?
Your blood that runs in your veins is that of a fucking badass. Like it's the best blood you can ever have. Like you're lucky. And that just kind of like, whoa, yeah, okay, all right, fucking badass. I have great blood. I'm pretty much good at everything I can do. It kind of pumped me up in such a way. I don't think I'm like, blowing up in the head or anything like that. And that's where my mother's, teachings come in. She's a devout Mormon. I actually grew up in the Mormon church, believe it or not, baptized and everything. But I was the kid that used to fall asleep during a 3-hour church mass or whatever.
Yeah.
So that wasn't for me. But she was, she gives her entire like soul and everything, and just to everybody out there. She's just selfless, 100%. And she raised 7 children on her own. So with her thing was cars. She was for the first years of my life. I was telling Oscar here about the story about me being born. Maybe that comes through. She used to drive big Ford F-350 truck with like 2 gas tanks, stick shift, and she was pregnant with me, and she had to like stop an emergency. I was born by mistake here in Coronado.
You should have been born in a Ford 350.
Oh, I know, right? No, she was like crowning, like she pulled like a hospital. She's like, I gotta go. This kid's coming out. Number 7's gonna pop out, like just, And that's basically how it was. They tried to send her off to Chula Vista where she was supposed to have me, but no, that didn't happen. And so that was my image of my mom, like driving around big ass trucks. And then she used to buy salvaged vehicles from like auctions. She'd fix them, and she'd go all through the junkyards, and like she knew like all the junkyard people, and she was really cool, really super hot too. And they would just give her like good deals on like engines and shit like that. So she'd take the engine and she'd go to another cool guy, and he'd be like, "Oh, I'll put it in here for a couple $100. I'll hook you up." Bam, So so she fixed cars and did all that, and then her next and last gig was she was a salesman at Volkswagen, which is why I'm like a diehard V-dub. Yeah, I've owned like 15 Jettas in my life. I'm just fucking diesels. And, I'm Volkswagen till I die. So that was her, like her humility, and she didn't have a salesman like bone in her body. It's just her humbleness like would win all the deals. She would sell 20, 30 cars in a month, and like having no clue about finance. She was just like, okay, can you write me up a deal that that's gonna give them a good deal, and that's her. She just like gives all of that. And so those are the 2 aspects of my life that kind of balance me out. And so that's and then I have a mentor too, who I attribute a lot of my my skills, my electrical skills, because that's kind of where.
How would you describe this mentor in just 3 words?
A robot.
A robot.
Well,
robot. One word.
Robot. Master engineer. Yeah. Robot master engineer. Who's no longer with us. He died in a motorcycle accident.
Oh, shoot.
He was only 3 years older than me, so, which is really, it burns, because, this man, he's the type of person, well, He ran an entire I lived in a co-op for a few years, a hippie commune up in Pomona.
Oh, okay.
Best years of my life.
Oh my gosh.
Just living with a bunch of hippies. It was great. And so that was there's 5 homes. So he ran that whole kind of co-op, and he would do the day-to-day, like change the water heater over there. You'd see him, running 5 miles in the morning, and then he'd go do that, and then he'd run his business, and then he'd prepare for Burning Man, and and then he'd like be in politics. Like this man just like I don't know. I don't think I ever saw him asleep. Honestly, I know he slept like a vampire somewhere, like just kind of okay, I'm good. And then he was just
up.
Yeah. But the people that knew him and know him and really like, man, how is he gone? I know, like myself, there's a lot of folks, like my really close friends, that just are blown away by how is this type of person, because he's a type of person. You don't see these people a lot. You'll see them and then you're like, this guy's fucking weird. He's a dick. Like he's mean. He's he thinks in colors and shapes and forms and theory. Like anything else is, you don't understand me, you're dumb. Like I'm telling you how to do things, and then people would involve emotions around it, and then he would just shut off.
You wouldn't
like,
do. Yeah.
Yep. That's not my thing. Sorry, go. And then after a few times of me like actually crying, because it's hard for me to cry, but that dude made me cry a few times, and it was like fuck, I disappointed him. But he was, and my brother, who's also my longtime mentor, Carlos, I'm an electrician because of him, basically. Okay. He started the electrician lineage in my family, and there's 4 of us siblings that are all electricians. Oh, I love it. He was the pioneer.
Let's come back to Carlos here in a second.
Sorry.
No, I love it, because what I love is you're humble, and you're as you bring up the people that have guided you and helped you, I know that list continues in that excitement, because none of us would be anywhere we are without someone that's done it and someone that was kind enough to put a hand out for us. To unpack that, my biggest takeaway is your dad gave you the energy, and doing it at a young age. I relate. And I guess before going into this, I think anyone listening, right, asking yourself, regardless of what age, looking at both of our parents, whether we know them or not, or maybe our guardians and who raised us, and regardless of who those people are, what kind of traits we have in life. And I can guarantee you, for some of the younger listeners, that I didn't think this would happen, right? I never thought I'd become my mom or my dad, but the older I get and the more I practice just being present, right? And I think I get a little bit more wisdom, the more and more I realize I'm a spitting image, and I am excited because of it, right? And
it's exciting. It honestly is.
Right? And
I wish I could meet your parents. Like I want to see the awesome Conor in them.
We're going to get parents involved in this, for sure. And that's some of the feedback that we've gotten. So
is there
next
more
time
wine?
I'm back in Iowa. Yeah, that would be too funny. We're going to start trying multiple people involved in these here soon. Your dad gave you the energy. I relate to that because for me, at a young age, I think I explained it on episode 2, 6th grade, my mom came out of prayer and she said, Conor, I just spoke to Jesus. And I grew up very religious, right?
Yeah.
Both sides of the family, different types. And I was at that perfect age where I needed some guidance, some influence, and that was all I needed. I fully believed my mom and the energy, and she said I was going to be a Christian rock band artist. I'd be playing guitar. Well, maybe this is where my mind took over. I was going to play guitar, and I was going to also do vocals. Immediately go home all pumped. Save up an allowance to buy a cheap acoustic guitar. Save up some more, start taking lessons. Lesson 2 is like, this is not for me. I mean, yes, looking back, I gave up way too quick. And then in your mother, that humbleness, right? And that is such a core part of who you are. And just the time we've been able to spend, you definitely are a humble individual. And when we start talking here in a little bit about like the sales aspect, you live the life of a social seller. Like you're providing that value all the time. I mean, you're transforming your company. You're in the process of making your company employee owned, right? Not many business owners, think like that, but that's really coming from a selfless heart. And your mentor too, being that type A personality to that level. And it's more common in like engineers, maybe electricians, they see things in just a different way. Maybe at times can seem like they lack personality, but they just think at a level that most of us can't comprehend. And so it's awesome that obviously you have to be a smart guy if he kept you around. I'm glad he made you cry, because I'm guessing that it made you a better person. I think this goes really well into my next question, and it's, do you consider yourself self-made or made for?
Definitely. So a client of mine once analyzed me. He was like a psychologist or something. And I went to his house, and that was my job, right? I'd go down there, put together a proposal, open up my laptop, and then talk about stuff, talk about them, talk about their dog. And he was talking about me, he flipped a script on me, and, he got to know me, and he's like, you know what? You're an autodidact. I'm like, what the hell's that? Because he got into like, oh yeah, what about your history?
Why does that sound familiar?
Autodidact?
Yeah.
Autodidact is a person that learns everything on their own, right? So I kind of told him, school wasn't for me. I barely finished high school because, I had to. Otherwise, just no. But after that, and I think I absorbed a lot of my knowledge in elementary school. Like, believe it or not, third grade was like, all the numbers just came and like, and then that's it. Like, I started becoming a problem solver at a very young age. And
what does that mean though? So like,
I don't
these
know.
things happen.
Okay,
just if you
I'll
could
give you an
really,
simplifying things. So when I learned how to simplify math, right, division, simplifying, and then into like a 1 or whatever, that really taught me a huge lesson in life, and I always wanted to simplify everything from there. Just like, simplify that. Okay, well, from point A to point B, why do you have to do all that when you can just go like that and then simplify that? And then, in business and career, even when I started as an electrician, I was taught a certain way to wire, some lights, start here and then go that way, throw that wire that way. And I'm like, that's so slow. What if I, put up these, these wires on these spinners, and then I wrap them all, and then I start up here, and then I would like, what if I don't have to get off the ladder, and I would just like hang on the rafters and pull my ladder, because I had a 4-foot ladder, and they wanted me to use a 6-foot ladder because it was safer, but I couldn't drag a 6-foot ladder around, so I would just like drag it with my foot and like hang on the rafters and like pull wire. So I was always into doing shit quicker, faster, and better. And it's not always everyone's style, and I couldn't keep a job for the life of me because I was always trying to simplify the process that was already put in by someone else. So corporate life for me was just like, you're a fucking smart dude, but you're not a good fit. Mm-hmm. So I lost a lot of jobs. That's why I was like, I had to kickstart myself. Be like, all right, if I want to do shit my way, I just have to do it my way. And so the question was,
self-made or made for?
Self-made. Yeah, definitely self-made, I think.
Do you think just in general, other humans, regardless of what they want to do in life, if we simplify life to the simplicity that we're just all chasing happiness, and that form can look different for everyone. Some might define it as money. Mm-hmm. Some could define it how much they give back in money or time or whatever that looks like, right? It can be for anyone. What would you recommend to someone, or not recommend, just in general, do you think on a global scale, the 7 billion plus, is everyone?
See, I guess what has worked for me and hasn't, but I'm going to say it's worked for me because up to this point, I'm happy. Because every single year, I kind of made a promise to myself when I had my first job, I was getting paid $12 an hour to do the hardest work, for an 18-year-old to do. It's not like flipping a burger or helping somebody out at Vaughn's. It was literally like pulling wires across, an apartment and nailing your hand to the rafters because you didn't know how to nail it. It was like cuts and scrapes and bruises and just tired and beat up and torn.
And not a very good wage.
And
so.
No, a shitty wage. And I had to drive, an hour there. And I was living in Mexico at the time, so it was cross the border. And then drive an hour. So it was literally 2 hours each way just to get. So it's like living in LA basically. LA was like, I did another stint there. Hated it because of the traffic, but yeah, it was all that. And it was like wake up at 4 a.m, to get back at 8 o'clock at night and come back with a $70 check, right?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
day.
If
we were lucky.
What would you recommend to someone out there that might be listening and they think, you know what? It's easy for someone else to say you're self-made, right? Like you made yourself, but I know I was born with this lack or God forbid, like a disability or anything like that. What would you say to that individual?
I would say, just set your standard to yourself every year. The one thing that really helped me kick my ass into gear was, and I didn't finish the whole, starting there. I said $12 an hour. I want to be making $18 an hour. How do I do that? And I proved myself a little bit, and then I said, how do I do this? And okay, you have to do this. Okay, cool, do it. Done. $18 an hour. Give it up. What do I have to do to make $22 an hour? This is me like at 19 or 20 in like 2000. So it was good money.
Yeah.
And then for me that wasn't enough. I was like, how can I make $300 a day doing electrical work? Well, you'd literally have to wire up like all these apartments. Done. Can I get help? Can I bring help in and pay them? Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's when I started team building and started doing that. And so every year I kind of just, I set that goal. It's like last year was last year, and I have to do better this year. And every year after that, I have to increase by, I don't know, something, but not nothing, right?
Yeah.
And throughout the years, like my earnings, my wages, my experience, everything was just growing, not exponentially. I haven't been able to 10x in one fucking year like a lot of people do. And I'm kind of jealous of that, but at the same time, like, I don't know what I would do with myself with such fucking power, It's like, no, I don't need that. I need to do it slowly.
That's the humbleness.
And I have to, because I know myself. I get out of control, and it's like, boom, like, that's it. I will go off the fucking rails, and you'll never see me again. Till like 8 in the morning, and I'll be back, right? But
hey, just on that note, the fact that you say it, and just you and me have talked about self-talk before, is that, and we've talked previously about like maybe working in NLP or things and realizing how self-talk works, and just saying that could be a limiter that like is potentially blocking that, coming in to some degree, right? So, I mean, I agree. There is this, I have the same feeling, right? That's the only reason why I'm bringing it up is like there's such thing as like the fear of success, and whether it sounds like a blanket statement or not, when you really get into self-development, and I think at some high levels, you start to really try to look at yourself in the most authentic light. And it's a very common thing once you start diving deep enough. And it's rooted in, a handful of things. That's something I'm working on. And just, I wanted to mention that. That doesn't mean by any means there might be. I've felt jealousy like that, right? Like, you have your friends, and I'm sure you've had friends around you. It's like,
I can do it. Why don't I fucking do it?
Right? Right? But then at the same time, it's like, I'm not mad. This is the journey. Yeah. And if you take a step back, you're like, damn, what have we created? It's a lot bigger than any individual, right? Yeah. And I think that alone is pretty cool. And
baby steps. Baby steps. I mean, I stopped being a 100-aire and became a 1,000-aire, And then, whatever, thousandaire. Then you just you can't just jump from thousandaire to millionaire. Like, I mean, you can, but I don't know how many people survive that jump.
Or sustain it. I think sustain it. Less,
yeah, exactly.
Right? And we talked about that. It happens so often. Like, if you get pissed about the guy, that digital marketer, that salesperson, that guy or girl that owns the e-commerce store, they start an Instagram store, and really we would just consider that as marketers, like e-com. A lot of times when you're 17 through 25 and you make $1 million in a year and you tout it and you see paid ads all the time, what I guarantee you is that isn't sustainable 95% of the time. It could be more, right? And ask other digital marketers in the sense of you can hustle your way to it. Don't feel bad about these people, because almost all of them don't repeat that the next year. Why? Systems. Like you talked about and like you started to learn in 3rd grade. That's wild, first off. Systems in place, because you have to have a foundation, not only in life. I think this applies to life, but it's also business. Chris and I, when we were 2 or 3 years into Uptown creation, we had an honest look at ourselves, and we were like, okay, hey, we're good at these couple things, but damn, we are not good when it comes to financials or like the accounting aspect in billing. along with operations. We knew how important both aspects were, right? If we wanted our company to grow, we need our financial metrics and financial targets to all be aligned with our goals, right?
Yeah,
Otherwise,
definitely.
you're just like shooting, whatever. I don't even know what the good analogy is. I lost analogies there for a second. And what I mean here is I wouldn't feel bad about it. And this is something I dealt with through college. I was in digital marketing, and even up to today, you see it. Instead, look at it and just go, I'm proud of you. And hope the best for them, right? If you have a friend or anyone in your network that's done it, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Hopefully they're sustaining it. Hopefully they've built systems so they can repeat this for a few years in a row. That is the point I wanted to make. Now, I want to dive in and kind of slow it down for a sec. Manny, you and me have always had upbeat and, for the most part, just happy conversations, whether it's related to business, whatever. I'd love to understand you even more. And what would you say throughout your childhood up to today has been the lowest point in your life? And when you were at the absolute lowest, how did you break through?
Lowest point. Okay, yeah. I was around 17, 18-ish. I had dabbled around in some pretty hard drugs. Not for a long time. Think things.
Yeah.
Think life. But I did some shit that I didn't think I was capable of doing, Nothing like that would land me in prison, right? Because I was always afraid. I'm always afraid. I still am terrified of fucking losing my liberty, Terrified. That's why I own a lot of guns. Like, I don't fuck around. Like,
You do.
nah. But I'm not that kind of libertarian.
No, I know.
But no. It's more so like my dad, and this is another thing that my dad instilled in me, is like, if you ever fuck shit up and land in jail, you're gonna stay in there. I'm not gonna go get you.
My dad said the same thing.
Not gonna
Always.
get you. You're gonna stay there, and it sucks in there. Just tell me, like, believe me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna help you. Don't fucking call me, because you're in there for whatever, dude. Just don't call me. So don't go to jail. All right, cool. And that and it kind of helps that to see, because I grew up with 7 siblings, of which 5 of us are males, and couple of my brothers, they did some pretty hard time and stuff like that, and went through a really rough time. And as me growing up seeing that, I was just like, I didn't know what to think of it, right? I was just fucking scared.
Yeah.
to have to go through that, because I saw their pain, and I saw their pain and my mom's pain. It was just like, 'cause she was always the one there bailing them out and like giving them food and money and like sustaining. And these guys, they're built tough. Like my brother Ivan, he's a saint, dude. He's my mom times 10, with a few felonies. Like, it's weird, but he's like the humble. Like, out of all my brothers, he's the one that would come after anybody that did anything to me.
Yeah.
Just out of like, oh yeah, not I don't know. So
Can we take it to when you were 17 or 18?
17 or 18, yeah.
And you, like, what crowd of people? Because I
friends.
I mean, just friends. And what was it like? Were you just having fun? Was it parties? Was it
all of it?
I mean, you were in San Diego, so it's
no. I did a stint in Tijuana, because I went to go live with my dad at the time.
So now you have to explain what the hell.
Dude, I've been
Tijuana's
everywhere.
like.
I've been everywhere.
In San Diego, it's TJ, right?
Yeah. Basically, it's like TJ is here too. It's like, it's everywhere. But I went to go live with my dad for a while, because my parents are separated, and I wanted to go because he was really successful. He had a few businesses and real estate and all, and so I would go visit on the weekends, and I would leave my home where we would barely have to make our own food. It was like really tough growing up, because my mom worked a lot, and I'm not saying that I lived a shitty childhood or anything like that. I was really well taken care of, but there wasn't those things that I didn't experience, like going on vacations every time and like having a maid picking up after my shit. I would get home and just like throw a sock over there to this, and then and then this lady would just come and pick up after me and make me food, and it was like fucking great, dude. It was like, awesome. It was fun, it was something to experience, and I was always like, I was a little bit safer, dude, because growing up, as a younger child with my brother Ivan, I was just like involved in a lot of things that I shouldn't have been involved when I was younger, and I think I kind of got away from a lot of things, and it's not like I regret it, but at the same time, like I saw a different thing, a different pace in life. I think seeing different perspectives, traveling and going different places is always like super healthy for the human mind and just human in general. Getting to know different cultures, different everything. And so I've had to move around so many times and adapt to different cultures, friendships, and ways of being. And it's like, okay, now I have to be this way. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so at 17, I was hanging around with a group of friends. They all had nice cars. We were driving around like Mercedes when I was 17 years old. Just money and stuff like that. And then, we met this really weird drug called crystal meth for a couple months. And it was the worst thing ever. It still is the worst thing ever, It was like, we just went into this crazy spiral. And like, I got in, and my dad used to have this drawer he'd keep under key. And I know because he would go and he would pull, because he had like jewelry stores, and I was actually selling stuff for him when I was a little kid. Yeah. That was my first job. I was a salesman. I didn't come to mind until like I got into sales like 20 years later. But anyway, that's a different conversation. And so he would come like with cash, like wads of fucking cash. He'd just pull like out of his pants like a wad of cash and like throw it in this thing and lock it up. And so I never thought, he always just, gave me money, like $20 from me. He was like, what the fuck? Crazy. I'm going to go to the arcade all day. Like, I was a kid, like, with friends because I would give them quarters, and like, that was fun, And so, one day I was just high off my ass, and we needed some more cash, and I went in and I devised this really fucking way, and I broke into his shit and, like, stole money from him, And what happened was, I didn't get caught. What happened was, he started noticing, because I did it more than once, like in a week. So he's like, and then he blamed it on my stepmom, who's my mom. I have two moms. I love her to death. And she got shit for it, like really bad. And I just stayed quiet, and I didn't fess up, But I saw her getting shit for it, and then like my brothers, her children, my stepbrothers, who I love to death. One of them just said like, man, you should really like step in and do something, because it's pretty shitty. She's like getting shit for it. And so that's the moment where I was like, all right, yeah, I'm a piece of shit. So that was a super low point in my life. I didn't need to go to rehab or anything like that. It wasn't that bad. Like I said, it was like a 2-month trial, and I knew what that fucking shit was, capable of doing to someone, and that was enough for me. It was like, all right, boom, I'm done. Like, and so, and I wrote this, like, the funny thing about that was I wrote a confession letter, which turned into a proposition, which actually got me a vehicle out of it.
Got you a vehicle? What the hell?
I got a car out of it. I don't know. I wrote this really, really impressive letter, like apologizing, and then it turned into like, this is why I want to turn around my life, and this is why I need a car, right? I need a car to do this and that, and then I'm gonna go da, 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 da. And I got a car out of it.
So you sent this proposition to your parents?
To my dad, yeah.
To your dad.
I wrote this letter. I was high, and then I was like, it was a really good letter. I wish I would have saved it, because it was a masterpiece.
That's where you go like, no, here, you start taking your shirt off. You have the tattoo on your back.
What? I didn't have tattoos yet.
No, okay, no tattoos
No, I started getting tattoos when I was like 32 or some shit.
Oh, hell yeah. See, I see a lot of friends, and I definitely did it for the same reason. Like, as soon as it's legal, whether it's like 16 or 18 in your state, depending on where, you get it. And I think for a lot of people, it's just this rebellion. It's also like, oh, damn, I'm this age. And maybe that's a form of rebellion too. But for me, it was like almost rebelling against how disciplined and strict things were growing up. The other point I want to make here is there's a book called Stealing Fire. And it's something, I think the subheading goes like, how maverick scientists, the Navy SEALs, and something else do something, right? But stealing fire. This book came out in the last 3 to 5 years. It is unreal. And the biggest takeaway is that human nature, and us mammals especially, love altered states. And the crazy thing is it's not just humans. What do I mean by altered states? It's consuming substances that take you to altered states. It's still you, but it's you in a different lens, maybe looking at the world differently. So I mean this very much in the self-discovery type of way, but I'm saying this because I see it becomes more and more of a pattern as I meet influential and people I look up to even more and more. And then moving to Southern California, where this is a lot more acceptable and it's a lot more heal yourself, be proactive. There's things out there, there's Eastern culture. I definitely lean towards Eastern culture after living in Asia for, a year after school, after college. In this book, Stealing Fire, goes into so much detail. And a couple of the craziest things that just come to mind right now is that it shows these examples of, what a lot of us don't know is the Navy SEALs are using this to literally, they're using self-deprivation tanks, right? Like float tanks, along with other substances. And it's been at least 2 years since I've read the book, so I don't want to name like what substance and be completely off, to learn new languages in 2 weeks, right? We're talking the government's highest investment, right, being in the special forces for the amount of education and training and the equipment that they get and the things they have to do. And that's how they're training them at a different level. The other levels are animals, right? And you can actually look this up, but there were a couple of viral videos in the last 10 years. One is we've captured multiple times on video dolphins, right? So the other thing is that it's got to be a mammal that has a more advanced brain, but I'm sure I could get more specific. I'm not going to try to detail
monkeys.
it, right? So yes, monkeys too. Dolphins have been captured, and you can look this up on YouTube too, but there's a science behind it. They will pass around a puffer fish. A puffer fish, to them, they purposely put it in their mouth to a certain degree where it punctures, not too much because it would kill them, but just enough. And you watch these dolphins within just a couple seconds, and we're talking like 5 or 6 of these, just like your
about
pot
dolphins
smoking hanging
passing
out
a
in
puffer
college.
pipe.
Literally, this is what I'm saying, and this is the best part. This is why you need to look up the video. The dolphin is like 2 to 3 seconds later, just casually, like kind of like chill. They just go upside down and they chill upside down, all like sitting in a circle at the bottom of the ocean. Yeah, it's crazy.
They're like the original
It's crazy.
hippies, right?
And then elephants, right? Also, extremely smart. Elephants in rural parts throughout the world where hopefully there's still elephants, right, running wild, they have been known for pummeling villages that they know have a distillery or brewery because, again, this isn't like a distillery or brewery we're probably considering, right? But these villages, someone's creating alcohol, right? Some kind of liquor is being distilled, some type of beer.
So
Elephants
got
love beer. And it goes into it. They love getting fucked up. So all
funny.
I'm saying here is like, yes, these are off and outlier scenarios. But if you look into the science, and that's something college taught me, is like, hey, emotions, that's awesome, right? Look into it. Science backs it in a factual sense. There is a way and in a method behind this madness. But anyway, altered substances, I understand it, and I think that's a personality trait that I realize is more and more common in entrepreneurs and high-achieving people, right? If you start reading biographies on Elon Musk to, oh my gosh, the list goes on, but I'm literally just running a blank. I mean, Joe Rogan, to be relevant with people, to like people that openly talk about it, like Tim Ferriss, it's just most people still, it's becoming more and more acceptable, right? And I think there's two big differences in why you would consume substances, right? It's altered states. It's, do you view this as like I'm doing it recreationally, going to a festival? I'm not saying that like there's anything wrong doing it, right?
No.
And I'd be lying if I said I didn't once or twice in my life. But how I've used it since sophomore year of college is a way to really understand myself. Seeing it as such a good opportunity and doing it in a sense like what I think a scientist might do, because I was scared shitless to start, right? Like the first time experiencing magic mushrooms, right? Or shrooms. It was like, oh, I was so intimidated, but I had heard like good things from people I really trusted and people that I knew only wanted the best things for me. And I've always had a natural curiosity. And I think to some degree it's like I'll try most things within a limit that I've created in my mind. once.
Microdose.
But I'm not in a rush to do
Right.
it, right? I know in life, like, the universe will bring it into my life at the right time,
Yep.
right? Well, I remember the first time doing magic mushrooms, and it was in college, and I remember writing down in this notebook, like, the exact dosage. I was going to do an eighth, and I put it in the blender, and I made a smoothie, and I drank it with strawberries and blueberries. And then I turned all my TVs off, and the roommate was gone. He always traveled, Shannon, shout out. He loved to snowboard, was always on the go. So I had this huge apartment in downtown Iowa City, and I just locked the doors, turned my phone off, put it away, and made sure. I told myself I'm not going to have any distractions. Like,
So
if
you
I'm
did
going to
this
do
by
this,
yourself?
I wanted to. That's the curiosity and the
Okay.
level, and I've continued to.
Right on.
Right? I mean, maybe not as much since moving out here. I think there's something special when you have a certain vibe and energy with a certain person. And when I'm saying this is like very occasional shit. This
Right.
is like, it feels like it's right. And again, you will never catch me buying anything. Like, it's something about, it feels right and it's the right moment. I think anyone that's experienced a psychedelic in their life,
Well, if you go to Burning Man, you kind of have to take your shit with you.
yeah, and Elon, and what most people don't know is Elon has been going for like the last 9 years or 10 years in a
I
row, and
wouldn't
he
put
goes
it
with his
past him.
cousins. And
He wouldn't be the
bring-
person that he is if he didn't
They
go to
bring the
Burning Man.
craziest cars. They
Yeah.
bring that's what him and his cousins like
Yeah.
compete. So like one year, he brought this lowrider, right? But he had it customized so that the steering wheel wasn't like, let's say this is the real way to hold a steering wheel in this car, right? He had it extended so he was driving it from behind his back, like above his head and behind his head, right? This is crazy. These are in his biographies. This is in Stealing Fire. This is when you get to understand the individual and you don't just look at what media and social media portrays, but like, if you have a real curiosity, dive into them. Biographies are sick. Altered States, Stealing Fire, you can look into it if that even makes sense. In no way am I endorsing it. I think there's certain types of people that
Do you
might
remember
be naturally
Altered
drawn to
Beast
it.
at all?
Mm-mm.
Altered Beast?
Energy
No?
drink?
Oh, I'm way older than you.
No, I purposely was just playing dumbass.
Sega. It was a Sega game.
Oh, I gotcha.
No, it was about these beasts that would like transform into something else, and it was like this whole like, as a kid, like seeing that, I remember like actually feeling like that sometimes, like transforming into a beast. I don't know. When you said altered, it came to my mind.
You crack me up. I knew you were gonna make me laugh throughout this interview, so I've been excited. Manny, what separates you from other entrepreneurs? You and me both know a lot. It makes the most sense. I mean, I know you and me both surround ourselves a lot of times with business owners just because it makes sense. But what separates you from any other entrepreneur?
Oh man, I don't know. Everybody's just so unique, and I salute every single entrepreneur out there. I sometimes I struggle with calling myself that. And I feel like you have to earn that, right? It's like you can't just be an entrepreneur, man. Like, you have to really like bleed and and suffer and go through all the shit. I guess some people that's my perspective on it. I think it's wrong though. I think some people actually get into entrepreneurship and they just do things easily and fine and well. But for me, it hasn't been easy. So I haven't earned that title yet. So when that's why I made that reaction. I'm like, other entrepreneurs, I'm like, I don't know, because I'm probably not as good.
Who would you blame for the reason that you aren't as successful as maybe you could be, or like people that you know?
Yeah. Me. Like, who else am I going to blame? That's totally me. Like, I get in my own way all the time. I think my biggest downfall is wanting to do too much just spreading myself way too thin. I don't have like laser focus to do one thing and just because I think I'm capable of doing so many other things. And here's where Will, my mentor, comes into play, and I see how he was able to do many things at the same time, and I'm like, and it's not that I want to do that, it's just I know that I'm capable of it. And even if it takes me, 2, 3, I'm in my third year of startup with One Up Solar, and it's like, right now, and I hadn't noticed it, but what I've been building for the past 3 years, or what we've been building, I have an excellent team, Sarah, Thais,
Your whole team,
Priscilla,
exceptional.
like my whole
Incredible
team is
people
awesome.
and
Juno, like,
awesome people.
dude, I mean, the people that stuck around. I've had people come and go, and they're all great. I love them all. Honestly, I don't have anything bad to say about people that didn't stick around because of whatever they might have felt or thought. But the decisions were made, and I think the decisions were just you're just not part of this, and you don't want to be a part of this, and so. This is why I want to change it up, and I don't think that I should be the owner of anything. And I was just telling Priscilla the other day about this. I'm like, I don't own anything. I'm happy I don't own shit. Like I don't own anything. I don't own my stocks. I don't own my Bitcoin. Like I don't own it. Nothing is mine. And when I said that, I felt really like relieved. It's weird. I don't want to own my company either. I think I don't know if it's a good thing to say it or not, but I want other people to own it because they've built it with me. And so, I mean, honestly, that's what it is. If we build this into a value asset, and we are looking into that, but we're not ready yet. And if it is, I'm going to pay out everybody their equal share. I'm not going to be the one to just, thanks guys, peace out, and So
can you explain what you mean by you don't own anything, and why that gave you like this?
I don't know. It's
freeing sensation.
It just it gave me. It just gave me the freedom of not wanting to like pursue to like own this and that and real estate and everything, like just have everything like in my name and all that. It's just like, I don't know, why am I always chasing that, right? It's gonna come to me. Money always comes to me. Like I've always had that gift, and it's scary, and it's like it's really fucking scary because I can get down to like reds, and I'm like, this is like getting really hairy, and money just comes. I'm like, okay.
I've just experienced this for the first time, and it takes a long time to get there. What's crazy is you're a couple years older than me, right? And for me, there's this excitement in the unknown to it because it's so new to me, right? And you work so hard being broke as an entrepreneur because it's this, hopefully I get a, and the thing is anyone that's actually going to do it to the point that I think it usually works and it actually starts to bring in a little income, right?
Yeah.
Which is better than no income, and you're not the unicorn cases. It would be, you have to fail, and it's going to be a long time. And the people that almost have the mindset of like, okay, well, if the statistics are saying 9 out of 10 small businesses fail in the first 2 years, I'm willing to fucking have 10. And I'm willing to give up 10 years of my life of being broke, borderline homeless, sleeping on friends' couches, because I don't know why, but I feel like I need to. And I really don't like working for anyone else. And not just, I think there's a seriousness and depth within it, because it doesn't make sense to get into it. And I think where people say you need to be passionate about it, that's a loaded question for the majority of the world, right? Most people, and I was there, like, what are you passionate about, Conor? Right? I remember freshman year of college, like entrepreneurship. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Question.
Like
that's fucking tough
it's so
question.
loaded. It's like, I don't know me. I can tell you how old I am according to like what my parents have always told me, but it's loaded. You have to go out and experience life, like you mentioned, right? You have to travel. I would wholeheartedly agree. You have to get out and travel, and don't travel like an American, right? Don't travel. An American travels to Canada and Mexico, or maybe potentially the Caribbean.
Knowing
and
travelers,
it's like, this is wild.
I would travel.
Anywhere else.
I would travel like a Canadian.
Yeah.
They travel
some
the
of the
best.
best people I've met
And
on
Germans.
the opposite side of the countries. And Germans too. Let's go. They travel.
They're the greatest
like,
travelers.
And then when you get out there and you're like, oh damn. Let's say it's a couple of us Americans, and this actually was a friend and I when we went to Asia for the first time. It was like 32 days. Just dipped out of college. Didn't even tell my professors.
Dope.
Well, in my mind, I was like, I'll log in. I mean, every class then at that point's at like 1 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m., 8 a.m. would have been like my normal times, just with the time zones flip-flopping. And 32 days there, we're fucking sweet people, right? We're like, Americans don't do that, right? It's like 7 to 10 days. You go to, this is just going to be cliche, but Wisconsin Dells, like who goes there from here? But it's like, you go somewhere. And
no, everybody else in the world travels for months.
yeah, everyone. That's what we found. 32 days,
Yeah.
they laughed at. But they also have holidays. And
for
like
a week or a weekend?
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's like, oh yeah, no, you're meeting us, and it's like, how long are you here? That's what an American will say in Bali or the Philippines or Singapore.
Yeah.
And when you talk to a foreigner from another country, it's like, oh yeah, I'm here for another 8 days. And that's like, oh, Americans, right? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's like, well, then, we have 2.5 months still planned, and it's my brother, my sister, and my dad, and we have this whole trip. Like, it doesn't stop.
Yeah,
And
no, I don't know.
think I could have heard that on a podcast when I was young, and it still wouldn't have impacted me until, for whatever weird reason, and a part of it was like, I need to see something in the world that's just the opposite, just to give me some perspective, right? Growing up on a small town farm, a town of like 3,000 to 5,000 people, right? Small town views, awesome values, and doing it just changed everything. And the coolest part about it is you're just experiencing something new. Like you're learning, and I think any person that I look up to today that I would say is successful or at another level than most humans, they would almost all agree that travel is the best form of education, right? We can talk about read the books, listen to the podcast, go to the courses, go to the events. I think those are all necessities too, because that's just showing how committed you are to yourself. I think that's the biggest thing, right?
It's humanizing and teaches you how to feel and think
Yeah.
and see things different and taste other things and, get to know other cultures it's amazing. You can't live a life without it. Because if you never like go out of your shell, it's, you're just stuck there forever, and that's all you're gonna see. And sadly, a lot of people are like that. They're just stuck there, and that's kind of where I don't want to be.
Yeah.
I see that around me, and I'm out. This is I can't
agree.
be there.
I agree.
Yeah. Like I don't mind picking up and going and live in Texas or Oaxaca. Like that was actually our plans were to live in Oaxaca this year. That all changed because my dad passed away. But we're so down to uproot and go and just do anything, run a business from here or there. And like
There's a freedom there. What I realize is people that can do that. And if I'm being brutally honest, the way I was raised and where I was raised, it wasn't like they had anything against anyone, right? Great people, but there were just certain like instilled beliefs that I think have just been there for generations. And so the way you raised your kids, or like the way
the way I was raised,
the way you were raised, you raised your kids, right? And
yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
I mean, like, this is
that
the
might not
statement that
work,
I'm going to
though.
make is like the fact that you've lived in a co-op, right, with other people, and it's like we're all going to have our part in this community, and we're going to feed each other. Money is not really relevant. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but it's like it's this trading and bargaining of like, let's go back to the simple things and get rid of all the bullshit. And
it's amazing.
And it frees you, right? I think to most people, and like where I was raised, in the environment I was raised in, I can hear people in my family and friends go like, if someone was to do that, it's like, you're woo-woo, you're a hippie, you're joining a cult, like, the list could go on. And what's so funny is that travel is the reason I was able to break free of all these conditional beliefs. And I'm only saying it because I hope there's one other person out there that might realize, damn, regardless of where I'm at or like where I was raised, in no way does it inhibit you, right? Going back to the question I asked you, are you self-made or made for it? It's a loaded question, right? It's a loaded question because I just kind of want to watch your facial expressions as you think about how it's always your fault, right? What I'm pretty confident in is that any guest on this podcast, if we were to ask that question, because there's filters and criteria to get on, right? You have to actually live the life. I would go as far as saying everyone up to this point would definitely always, without doubt, say it's 100% my fault that I'm not where I want to be, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's the beauty, too. I think there's a freeing feeling within that, right? Like extreme leadership, right? Or extreme ownership, sorry, the book. And that was the final point. I knew I wanted to get there, but I wasn't fully there. Up until like 2 years ago, I would still catch myself blaming, right? And I've talked about it before. There are times that the old CP will still show up. And I will come up with the best excuses to why I'm not performing at the level that I should be. And my relationships with family and anyone in my life, to the team and how I'm conducting sales, and am I fully delivering and putting everything into it. And I'm sure you might be able to agree.
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah, you kind of have to keep an even balance though. Like, there are certain people you can blame for things, but it's not something you can hold against anybody. It's just like, that's just it inhibits you sometimes. Other people's actions and reactions, they do play a role, sadly, in some people's future. And you just have to, pick up your shit and move away.
See,
Move out of the way.
I don't
It's
agree
just
with
like
that.
it happens. I mean, it has to be able to slide off of you is what I'm saying.
Okay,
like,
and that's exactly
yeah,
what
no,
you're saying.
like, oh shit, well, this didn't happen because honestly, this person did that, and I just had that experience recently, and I blew up, and I fucking, I was just so mad at this one person, and then at the end of the day, I didn't go to sleep with it, because if you go to sleep with that kind of stuff, it's just like it ruins you. At the end of the day, I ended up blaming myself for putting myself in that situation. At the end of the day, is like that was me that got into that situation, and people are like that. Who cares? It's not. There's nothing you can do to change it. It's not going to change whatever just happened. But what is going to change is what's going to help you, not run into that again. Is realize that maybe you put yourself in that position. Just step back for a second, and maybe I did put myself in that position. But yeah, honestly, I did. So I can't, I have to remove the blame so I can go to sleep at night, and then the next day it's done.
Removing the blame. What is that? Detaching from ego.
Yeah.
Right? That's another foundational book. Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. It is something that has controlled me, and fully transparent. Like, I know it's still there, and it's always something I'm working on. And it's the thoughts that were better than anyone else, and taking it over the top, right? Because we both talk about how, like, at a young age, something energized us, right?
Right.
If someone gave us a little heads up. I mean, you were...
And not meth.
You...
Sorry, I had to throw it in there.
That was a good one. That was a really good one. No, damn. I'm going to go as far as that was the best joke yet, in my opinion. That was the best joke. But you had your dad telling you from a young age that you had the blood of an energy drink that doesn't even exist. Yeah, a king.
A blood
royal,
of kings.
Royal.
Me and my sister just had the blood of kings. And I think that's what drove us to be just like him.
I love it. I love it. And now we're going to switch topics. What I love is you're also in a committed relationship with Priscilla.
Yeah.
And Priscilla, an incredible person.
Lovely woman, man.
Yes.
She came around and changed everything.
Yes. No. And how long have you two been together? And I just want to know, for fellow males and females out there, what would you say today is the number one advice in just maintaining the highest quality relationship possible?
Well, when I figure that out, I'll let you guys know. But
In the meantime, what you would just say today? Obviously, it's not concrete.
In the meantime, I'm completely comfortable with where we are. Obviously, every day I catch myself, saying and doing things that could be different, right? And so just find that person that you can be comfortable with. It's so cliche, but it is. It's just that, And Priscilla's just like, I see the humble in her, and that brings me back home, right? There's no ounce of like hatred or anything. Like we think we ran into each other. I chose right, and now we have a beautiful baby daughter. And I have two beautiful teenagers also. And, we're all happy, we're all happy. And I don't know what the key to a successful relationship is, other than just, stick it to it. Don't
Let's
go
rephrase
off,
it.
Yeah,
no, I love this. I love
don't
this.
go off and get frustrated and try to do better, because that's not going to happen. Another thing my dad and my mom told me is women, and just saying women, men, same thing. We're all the fucking same. Like, we all have our kind of, I guess, combination, right? That you can kind of put together, and it works, right? So there's no oh, this person's crazy or this and that. No, you guys just have to make it work. The combination is right, and then that's it, right? Some people struggle with harder with more difficult things, I guess you should say. Like there's in a relationship, at least in my experience, there's always, a black and a white, or a white and a black, or whatever you want to call it, 1 and a 2, or whatever. It's always kind of an uneven or different kind of dynamic. So to be able to see the same color and be gray, for example, is like that's when you really master it, right? And that's what we are achieving, and hoping that I can be that person first before anything else in the world, is just the best partner, and then the best boss, and then the best parent, and not in that same order, but
when she's having a bad day and it's hard to communicate, and you have work, and you have 3 businesses to run, and you have kids, and there's a lot moving and going on, what's that go-to action that kind of brings things back?
When she's having a rough day, I have to get back to you on that one. For her, it's just she doesn't get that far down. You know what I mean? It doesn't. She's really easy to pop back, and at least in my perspective, for her it may be different. I don't know, but just snackaroos, and bedtime is if we can just both be cool, eating some snacks.
Yes.
The baby in the middle now is I have to learn to just calm down and shut up, because my mouth just runs and runs and runs and runs and runs. And that's the thing. I'll sleep 4 hours a day, and I go to sleep talking, I wake up talking, I wake up everybody.
You're talking through your sleep.
I talk in my sleep too. No, she talks more in her sleep, that's for sure. But I just my big thing is I need to learn how to wind down and just listen. And I think that's if you were asked that the answer to your question is if I could just shut up, wind down, and just listen.
Listen. That gets right into communication.
That's where I have trouble.
I love it. I love it. And you just gave us a good sight into the relationship. And I love that, because just what I've experienced. You two work together. That's part of the reason that I wanted to ask the question, is because you have multiple companies. You guys are running this shit together. You have a family to run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're leading multiple teams in different ways, right? Now I'm going to switch the side, or the topic again. Now you are, and I'm going to say it, right? You are not only a renewable energy, but solar energy influencer, right? You are an influential person in this space, known throughout the country, and not only for the content that you create, but for the training programs and all of the ways that you go out of your way to help, right? The selfless little stories here are just a fraction of what I see you creating and what you're building and how your team interacts with you. Can you give us some juice into, you're an expert. You are, and you kind of see the direction, and you might have a better idea than a lot of us. What do you see the solar energy, or just renewable energy in general, and any opportunities? Where is the money going to be? And I know that's a very broad statement to make, but where are the biggest opportunities in 10, 15, even 25 years? What does the direction look like for any of us that don't really know anything about renewable energy?
Well, the direction is very clear. We have the most powerful resource on this planet is the sun. Can we agree? How much energy radiates out of it? Energy, think about energy and what that is literally the sun, burning off energy into the atmosphere. And how much of that energy are we actually capturing? Not enough. Not enough. Technology, solar technology today, compared to, say, 15 years ago when I got in, there's a difference in efficiency in the cells of solar panels of about 7%. 7%.
That's it?
Yeah, you'd think, some scientists would be like, fucking the most efficient cell in the world, boom, all you need is a box.
Fellow door-to-door salespeople. That blows my mind, because I think I've subtly mentioned that, can you imagine how inefficient those would be?
Well,
I've never said a number, but now that you tell me,
23% is the most efficient solar cell. 23%. Like, you got to think about it. Like, where's the other?
So
you
why
know,
the hell
88%,
why the hell does it seem
78%?
like 75% of homes in Southern California and arguably like the country is figuring it out, but like especially the places in the Southwest where we get a little bit more sun, why does it seem like 75%, or you know what, we'll just say 8 homes out of every 10 in the majority of neighborhoods? Again, I've knocked 2,000 to 3,000 doors.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking a handful of neighborhoods throughout different parts of San Diego. Why does it seem like that many people have them, yet you're getting between what you said, 7 to 23% or 17 to 23?
So the difference in efficiency in actual solar cells has only changed about 7% in the past 15 years.
Okay.
And the most efficient solar panel out there today is 23%.
Where is that solar panel manufactured?
Well, they're all over.
I know
they're
but like,
manufactured all
why
over.
is this one better? This is my natural curiosity coming
Well,
up.
why isn't it better is what I'm saying. Like, why aren't solar cells 100% efficient? Like, that's like, somebody's like bogging down the industry and not letting it grow, right? Because as of today, you can power an entire house with the sun completely. Like, everything in the house.
Run
What
your
else do
AC
you
all
need?
day, every day, and never pay a bill.
Can you power this building with solar panels? No, because this building is like this, you know, and there's not enough roof space to cover all the consumption in the entire building. So there needs to be a more efficient cell. And so, yeah, no, technology has a long way to go. So in the next 15 years, we can maybe see a 50%, you know, efficient cell. So there's a long way to go.
Is it going to be solar though?
3% cap. There right now there's a 3% market cap in solar. So that means that only 3% of buildings in San Diego, or in California, which is one of the most, you know, progressive solar energy states, it's probably the first one that started, and we're only at like 3 to 5%. You know, there's a huge market for it. We're still being powered by gas and, you know, coal and all these, you know, these buildings are all powered by you know, power plants that are nowhere near us. We have to transmit. If you look at a power bill, about 50 or to 60% of that is all transmission and distribution. Why? Because there's no power plants here. We're not in Texas where there's like oil everywhere, right? So it's ridiculous, you know, like business owners and property owners in general, like, why are you still buying power from Arizona?
Quick question. Okay. Whether you are a young individual, late teens, 20s, 30s, 50s, 60s, anything, and you're like, I want to make sure I bank over the next 10 to 15 years, where should I invest my time and money today? Right? And I'm saying purposely the youngest age, like what industry, what job should I even be considering to like at the high end of like, if I'm an investor, where should I be thinking? Where can I put my money with some crypto returns?
Oh, buy at least a Bitcoin. Buy that shit today.
I mean,
it's only 52,000 right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the
One
other thing,
Bitcoin.
guys, is that most people forget is you do not have to have $52,000.
No.
You do have to buy a Bitcoin. I hear this, and I've heard a handful of people, and I just want to make sure people understand. I am not an investment master nor expert, and you would probably say the same.
Say that. We're not.
Disclaimer.
We don't give investment advice.
I legitimately down the road, who knows what'll happen.
Yeah.
But it makes sense to get into some of the cryptos. Do your own research.
But I do want to say one thing. There's in the world, there's money makers. Okay, what is the job that most makes money in the world?
Salespeople.
Sales.
Yeah, hands down.
Bottom line.
Highest paid profession.
What are the two things in the world that move people, power people, and just drive the economies in the world? Two things that come to mind, and the most powerful, you know, resources, or it's not even a resource, it's just what powers people. One are drugs, whether they're illegal or legal, right? So pharma, drug dealers, the richest fucking salespeople in the world, right? And then there's energy, because without energy, you can't do shit, right? You can't go anywhere, you can't move.
City
Energy,
doesn't turn on.
Energy is light, energy is food. Energy is everything that makes the human live and move, right? So do I want to sell drugs? Sure. but maybe not. Maybe I'd rather sell energy, right? Maybe it's probably easier, safer.
There's a legal way to do it. I could become a pharmacist, and I could get that little.
You could, but at the same time, do you want people dependent on that drug? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's a trade-off for me, either illegal or not illegal. It doesn't matter. I'd rather sell energy. It's easier for me because I understand it and I know it, and that's my thing. And when you go to energy, okay, you step on this side, and then you've got energy on this side, and then you've got food, power, and everything else, right? And so I chose power because that's what I grew up in, right? Electricity, and so I mean everything in here is power, right? Everything that we're doing, these mics are powered. I don't have to explain it, but if you can be in an industry that generates power. And generates power the only clean way, other than wind, which isn't available everywhere. Well, yeah, but then again, nuclear power isn't exactly, easy to make.
Okay, maybe on that filter, easy to make. Because the other thing that I hear, and again, it's only door to door.
Right.
Because I full-heartedly believe this, right? I want to spark good conversation, and any of my good friends know that I'm going to just bring up devil's advocate to some degree.
Definitely.
What I've heard knocking on enough doors and talking to, let's just say for this fact, and you've probably knocked a lot more in your life, I'm going to say 3,000 in the last 7 months. And that could be incorrect.
That's a lot of doors.
We'll say 1,000.
Okay.
Just to make sure that if anyone wants to say anything, we'll say 1,000, right? That's an easy number too. You're going to meet a decent amount of people that are pretty damn smart. Now, they don't have to like you. And if there's not going to be a sale, a lot of times I start asking just questions, right?
Yeah.
How do you spend your time? I feel like you lead teams, right? That's usually on the door-to-door way of how I can get them to tell me their title. But these smart people, some of the objections I hear are, I know solar panels won't even be visible on my roof in the next 10 years. Why would I buy it now? And it's like, I'm not looking into this. The next would be like, my son is an aerospace engineer for the Air Force or NASA or this program. Like, again, I'm just saying, I wholeheartedly believe these people, and whatever. They mention all of these different things that I think could be happening.
Yeah.
Do you think you have a bias in solar, or do you legitimately just think, in general, this is the next 25 years?
I legitimately think that if you own property, you should own your power. That's it. You got to build.
Agreed.
You got to build equity with energy. It's the only way to do it. Why? If you can't produce your own water, not yet. I wish the sun could produce water. If we did that, that'd be fucking awesome. But we can produce power, which is one of the bigger bills out here in SDG&E, right? Like, SDG&E is the most expensive utility company in the world.
Did not know that.
It is. In the world. In the United States, at least. I think it falls in, like, number 2 or 3. But it's insane. It's just, why? As a property owner, you don't need to be buying this from other people. You can just produce it yourself. No matter if it's bad in 5 years or what, not bad, but if it's obsolete or they look nice or whatever. But in the meantime, what are you going to continue to do? Like renting your power from someone else?
Right. And like the only value I want to provide here is like,
well, it's like, why did you buy your house then? Because I didn't want to rent anymore. Well,
without selling, and to give context to people too, is like there are a handful of families that I've met, and it's fairly common in a lot of neighborhoods, especially out here. But I'm saying it's got to happen in other states too. They're paying $300 to $500 a month in electricity, right? Maybe a 3-bedroom home, 4-bedroom home, and they have a family, right? And because of COVID, whatever, maybe they've been paying this. And I give that example because to some people, and I know where I grew up, that's crazy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that was a shock to me moving out here, the price of water, unreal. But the thing is we want to provide value here and authentic value. What I can say is that just looking into the numbers and being in the space, I only try to do things and work with companies that align with values, right? And your passion for renewable aligns with mine because I see it as the future and I see it as a huge opportunity. I don't know when it's going to continue to pop. The one point, though, is that if solar is taking over, and the reason why people are looking into it is because you only save money. Like, I don't care what company you go with, look into the numbers. Don't do any type of lease would be my recommendation, and I'm not giving any kind of financial advice, but just look into the numbers because the same energy you're using, and I'm going to say 9 out of 10 homeowners, and I'm going to just say Southern California, keep that basic because I don't want to say anything out because I'm not the expert like you.
Well, leases actually have we'll talk about that later, but
I'm trained with a bias. That's how they trained us.
No. See, this is why I can't be a good trainer, right? Because I don't have that. Because I believe wholeheartedly just in the premise,
yes,
right?
I got you. I know. I see where
And
you're
then, and I'm not like
to be renewable.
Yeah, I can't be a canvasser trainer because I when I go canvassing, like when you say I knocked 1,000 or 3,000 doors, I can get a lot of results out of 10 doors, you know, and that's all. I mean, I haven't knocked more than 200 doors in the past year, and that does enough. But I have the experience and the technical everything about, you know, to learn about it, and so you either have that or you learn, like, you know, a scripted way to do it, but that in my opinion isn't the best way, right? Like, you have to know the whys and everything about it, and that's what we do, right? That's why we've built this. That's why I'm moving from you know, sales CEO manager to a professor. Like, I'm done. I've been on the roof. I've been an engineer. I've been, you know, designer. I've been in IT. I've done everything. Yeah. I've done everything, and that's kind of where, you know, I that's how I wanted to take this trajectory. Is like, I wanted to learn everything about it, and so now and the scariest part was sales. Like, I was so scared of jumping into that, and it was, you know, because I didn't have confidence in myself. But then I remembered, wait a minute, I've been selling since I was 8 years old. What, you know, I could do this. Yeah. And the moment I did that, stepped into that, it was over, like game over.
You've always been a social seller, man. And you grew up with a mom and parents, a dad that told you you have the blood of royalty. And I say that in the sense of, it's just, hey, I don't have this chip on my shoulder. Like, it's more than me, and I don't know what direction it's going to take. And your mom to keep you humble, and I see that today, and how selfless you are as a leader, an entrepreneur, a business owner, and how you're helping the world. And what I'm excited for is over the next 5 to 10 years, I know that whether you're in the renewable energy space, you should already know about you and the content and the value you're providing. But I'm saying to the average household, they're going to be knowing about this name, and you're going to meet Manny. You're going to understand him. He is such a high-quality human. It's not about him. How can people get in contact with you, and what would you recommend to people in regards to if they want to get in contact?
I mean, if you just want to get some knowledge, we're going to be putting out a lot of content here, you know, in the next few weeks, months, at the Solar Plug. On your connection for solar.
On Instagram,
Twitter, YouTube. You know,
the Solar Plug.
The Solar Plug.
The Solar Plug.
It's pretty standard across the board.
Awesome.
We run the nationwide platform called One Up Solar, which is our baby. And honestly, I want to sit back and teach. Like, that's, you know, teach what I've learned and where I've made mistakes. And for homeowners, same thing. Like, there's a lot. I get phone calls randomly from like people that go on Google and they just look up solar companies. And, you know, they call and they're just looking for help because, you know, whoever they did business with didn't pick up. And, you know, I'll spend 15, 20 minutes just kind of talking through them, giving them, you know, tips and pointers like, hey, look, get your bills together, get all this together, send me your contract. Look, I'll look into it, because I hate it when people don't understand. You know, I get this a lot. Like, who did your solar install? I don't know. Do you have your system monitored? I think so. I don't know. I'm like, you know, like there's a lot of schooling that needs to happen with homeowners, because it's important. It's you have to learn to manage it. Like, it's a whole thing. Like, you have to learn how to know your power, manage it, because it's costing you money now. Now it's yours. You know, you can't mismanage your own power. And so I think, you know, if anybody wants to get into something like this, it's definitely the way to go. It's beautiful to be
especially
able to,
if you align with those values, guys, right? And that's what I love, is you live a congruent life. Again, back to being a social seller and living a congruent life. Your actions, your values, and what you're creating in life should all align, right? And I think it can go as far as when you're gifting things, whether it's a family member, Christmas time, birthday, that even our gifts should be aligned with our values. That's something I've recently learned. We can talk about it later. Thanks again for tuning in to the Social Seller Podcast with Conor, Paulsen. Manny, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for hopping in. I love this conversation, and I can't wait for the next. Now, to help us continue providing value, please give us any kind of feedback. in the comments down below or subscribe. We are so fortunate for the continued momentum. And again, we're more than happy to put this time in. This is all about you guys and making sure that we are living a congruent life, right? For me, I don't want to be the person that charges for every piece of content. I think there's a bigger power here, and to show people that you might be a salesperson just because you're a high quality human, and you can be a salesperson that maybe wants to become a higher quality human, right? It's not like the Wolf of Wall Street. It doesn't have to be. Subscribe, comment, give us feedback, DM me on Instagram. And that is in the description below, and that's also where you can connect with Manny. We'll have both of those below. See you next Tuesday, 9 a.m. PST and 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's
Thanks
get
for
it.
tuning in, guys.